Do you enjoy reading? Do you enjoy reading short stories? Do you enjoy reading scary stories? Then I have just the thing for you, Stories of the Bizarre and Terrifying Omnibus 1, a complete collection of all of my short stories so far in one handy little collection. It also comes with a handful of neat little extras, including a glossary of all the creatures and forces I've created over the years, author's notes providing insight into my creative process and inspirations, and even 2 all-new short stories that function as proof of concepts for 2 ideas I've had for much bigger works. If you're at all interested, feel free to check out the links in the description. It's available in both ebook, paperback, and for the first time ever, hardcover. Fatal Frame is a small series with a storied history dating back to the PlayStation 2 era of gaming. Of the horror games coming out of Japan, it was unique amongst the titles to receive English releases thanks to its focus on Japanese spirituality and unique method of combating ghosts that set it apart from heavy hitters like Resident Evil and Silent Hill. Photography. Back when I reviewed the remaster of the 5th game, Maiden of Blackwater, I mentioned that I hoped that the game's newfound financial success would lead to the remastering of the other titles in the series, most desirably the Japan-only 4th game, Mask of the Lunar Eclipse. And that has at last come to pass. For the longest time, the only way to play this game has been to emulate it with a fan translation, but now it can be enjoyed in an official capacity with the added bonus of graphical enhancements for added immersion. Or so the Steam page claims, because I can still remember the shoddy launch Maiden of Blackwater's remaster had, where it lacked mouse support, so it stood to reason that some skepticism was warranted when approaching this. So with that being said, how was it? Honestly, it was scarily good. No joke, Mask of the Lunar Eclipse is a bona fide scare maker that actually got me jumping in my seat more than a few times. Its scare factor, the culmination of successful executions of various factors to come together to make you void your bowels, is held up by 2 firm load-bearing pillars: its atmosphere and its narrative. The game's atmosphere is one of the thickest, darkest, and most enveloping I've seen in a game in recent memory. The tight hallways of the Rogetsu Hall and Haibara Infirmary are richly detailed in their dilapidated abandonment. Heavy dust fills the air while moonlight filters through the windows, cutting through the dark like false glimmers of light at the end of a tunnel. But that's just the environment. The soundtrack too goes back and forth between hauntingly mesmerizing or frantically chaotic, and it does a great job of pulling you into the moment, regardless of the tone, or just making the environment seem more threatening with unseen dangers lurking in the shadows waiting for you. All this works a treat, especially since the game is a slow burn, racking up the tension by smothering you in a blanket of its oppressive dread. It's also where those graphical enhancements really do work in the game's favour, even if some things haven't aged well. There is an undeniable sense of engrossment as you wander the game's setting, so when it's time for the ghosties to jump out at you, you'll be guaranteed to do so sometimes. As for the other pillar of the game's narrative, honestly, I like it more than Maiden of Blackwater's, largely because there's no sense that the characters could just up and run away in between chapters before one of them gets possessed. The characters have returned to an island years after everyone there died under mysterious circumstances. There's no way they can just run away. That aside, the narrative is really enjoyable without considering that comparison. I enjoyed unraveling the mysteries the 3 leads were pursuing on Rogetsu Island, the 2 girls trying to uncover why they have no memory of their childhoods, and a private investigator hired to bring one of them back home. The questions, the answers, and the new questions revealed some genuinely compelling lore tied to the spiritual practices of the island, as well as its tragedies and unethical medical practices that went in order to try to cure a psychiatric disorder unique to the island, all of which was just as terrifying as the ghosts themselves. Where the narrative does fall short though is with the leads, specifically the 2 female ones. They're pretty much interchangeable without any real discernible characteristic between them. I honestly wish one of them was at least shown to be more selfish, more of a coward, or just in denial of everything, just so I could set her apart from the other one in some way outside of just what costume I had them wearing. But with that being said, the leads do have compelling motivations, and they are differentiated by the gameplay at least. For instance, Misaki, she's trying to find out how to avoid an early death. Meanwhile, Ruka is trying to rescue Misaki and another girl who's disappeared. Gameplay-wise, the two do play the same at the core. They explore the environments and fight ghosts using the camera obscura, but where they differ though is with their special attacks. These do add some variety to keep things interesting, with Ruka being more specialised in offense, while Misaki is more about crowd control and keeping the ghosts at a distance. Then there's the male lead, Choshiro, who's trying to bring Ruka back home. Honestly, he was a wasted opportunity to experiment with the gameplay. Unlike the girls, he actually uses a torch that can hurt the ghosts rather than a camera obscura, which at a glance you would think means his gameplay is going to be more like, say, Alan Wake's, using the torchlight to wear enemies down before finishing them off with a risk and reward factor. But no, the torch functions just like the camera obscura, but it just has extra restrictions for combat and taking photos, in that you can't take photos without the right lens equipped, but if you have it equipped, then you can't actually hurt the ghosts, and you need to first make sure you don't have it equipped. And let me tell you, it was never not annoying to forget I had the bloody thing on and end up taking a bad selfie of Jim Rob the lobotomy patient instead of channeling the spiritual essence to soothe his mentally impaired wrath and help ease him into the nether realm. Those issues aside, I did find Choshiro to be a likeable protagonist, and if nothing else, he does have some personality to make him stand out from the girls. It also should be said that the game does not outstay its welcome. Sitting comfortably at a nice 8 to 10 hours in length, the game concludes before it has a chance to really wear out the player's patience and the ghosts lose all sense of menace, getting you hyped up to play through it all again, but now with the bonus costumes that you can unlock. However, there is one point in the game where a puzzle exists simply to pad out the runtime. A 4x4 sliding tile puzzle. This comes in around at the 5 to 6 hour mark, and I'll be honest, it's just a chore to get through. Even when you do figure it out, or if it comes naturally to you, all you'll be thinking about is how you just want to be fighting the ghosts and exploring more of the hospital, or really anything else, because this is just a lame, drawn-out puzzle, which I might add actually made me consider quitting the game earlier than I did for this review. But it should be said that that puzzle is simply the worst of a number of nitpicks of different sizes that do, unfortunately, bring the game down one way or another. For one, I know that in order to create a sense of vulnerability, the slow walking pace is there to help drive in the fear and make you soak in the atmosphere. But that doesn't mean the characters need to move at the speed of a geriatric granddad. Yeah, there is a running option, but its pace is more like that of a brisk walk than one would consider to be a run. The texture work too in the environment is honestly horrendously blurry and can wreck immersion, something that should have been on the list of graphical enhancements but unfortunately wasn't. I mentioned in my Made in a Blackwater review how the game looked like it had current-gen character models running through the world of a late PS2 game. Well, here it's more like the character models are from an early Xbox 360 game running through the world of an early PlayStation 2 title. And on top of all of that, the pricing for Mask of the Lunar Eclipse is just ridiculous. Here in Australia, it's a whopping $73.50. If you also want the bonus costumes and other extras that are in the deluxe edition, that's going to set you back an extra $36.50. Again, compare that to Made in a Blackwater, which was priced at a more reasonable $56.95, with DLC that only cost an extra $22.95. Honestly, this just screams that Koei Tecmo knew about the long-standing fan demand for this game, and decided to take advantage of that to implement pricing that is undeniably fansploitation. It also makes me worried about how they'll monetize the original PS2 trilogy in the now very likely event they decide to remaster those titles as well. Those issues aside, I still enjoyed my time with Mask of the Lunar Eclipse. Yes, those nitpicks I mentioned do bring it down, but they don't stop it from being a tense, nerve-wracking horror experience that will leave fans satisfied and newcomers salivating for more. And hey, considering the positive response to not only this but Maiden of Blackwater's remaster and the commercial success, hopefully it won't be long before we hear news about the PS2 trilogy getting its own remaster and maybe news about a new entry as well. For either of those, I cannot wait, though I do hope a PS2 trilogy remaster is more reasonably priced. Hey, thanks for checking out this review, I really do appreciate it, and if you're new to the channel or you just really liked it, by all means, hit the like and the subscribe buttons, that would really help me out in the algorithm. For the next review, I'm going to be taking a look at the remake of Resident Evil 4, and here's a quick spoiler, hot damn is this bloody good! Then after that, I've got reviews for Atomic Heart and Dead Island 2 in the pipeline. For the latter though, that may be much later depending on when I can finish upgrading my PC. I've got all that more coming up, so please stick around.